This is In the Fight, a Section 247 show presentation. Follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at In the Fight Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/InTheFightShow.
Welcome to InTheFight.net's The Weigh-In, or weighing in on the weekend that was in the world of combat sports. I am the Doc, joined as always by Brett Halpern. Brett, how are we? It was an interesting weekend of fights. I figured we should split this thing up a little bit and discuss a little bit more immediate everything that's been going on in the world of MMA and boxing.
Makes sense. Mike, how you doing? It was definitely a good weekend of combat sports. I guess we'll include weekend starting on Thursday.
Yeah, so we're going to go back to Thursday. Obviously, there was the PFL. PFL, what is that? Technically 3 out there in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Interesting card we had going on there. Get some particulars out of the way. InTheFight.net is where you can find us. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at In The Fight Show. You can also listen to us every Thursday at 5 p.m. East, 10 p.m. in the UK. In the Fight on Sportinarium Radio. The show will go on, so you're going to get a double dose each week. Every Monday, Tuesday, we weigh in on the week that was, and then the Thursday show on Sportinarium. Let's get right to it. This weekend was huge in the world of boxing. 70,000 people slammed in there. The Jerry World, Canelo Alvarez really beat up Billy Joe Saunders. When I mean beat him up, it shattered his face.
Yeah, first, I was surprised. If Jerry World is sold out, how is that only 73,000 people?
That's all they sold. They only sold 73,000 tickets.
So it's like, it was completely sold out.
No. So I had this argument one time. I'll never forget in high school. I had this argument with a girlfriend who told me that she went to a sold-out Backstreet Boys concert, one of those things, at Veterans Stadium. And I can remember watching it on the news, and I'm like, yeah, that's not 67,000 people there. That's 20. Yeah. That's just the number of tickets that they've sold.
Oh, I thought they would have just tried to pack it. And either way, it was very cool. It was very good production. But, yeah, Canelo, it just, at some point, Billy Joe Saunders kind of dropped into a left hook from hell, and it shattered his face. It was the X-ray images were rather disturbing.
If you go to our Instagram and our Facebook, we do have the image up there. It is really nasty. And at one point, it sounded like this was broadcast on DAZN. So it sounded like the announcers were trying to get Eddie Hearn, the matchmaker, to say that Billy Joe Saunders was a quitter.
Yeah.
And he didn't take the bait, nor should he. I mean, he said it. I remember watching the clip. Saunders is walking back and his eyes closed. Dude, what do you want the guy to do? There's nothing more that could be done. You can't fight like that.
So there's 2 different scenarios. One, we've seen in fights, both boxing and mixed martial arts, a guy's eyes swelling up. If it is just an eye swelling up and there's no structural damage, then I would say then you might call into question his character. But to me, the way that it swelled up so quickly, it was clear to me that there was something broken. At that point, why are you going to risk the rest of your career? It's over. Just live to fight another day. And yeah, why are you also trying to get the promoter to completely shit on his fighter, which also makes no sense.
Right. Well, I mean, it's kind of like the way with boxing sometimes. It's like, we got to make the guy look bad on the way out. He didn't even I don't know who the interviewer was. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
Was it what's his face? Gray? That's who. What's his name?
He's a Showtime guy.
Yeah, I know, but he would ask that kind of question.
He's an agitator.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And good for everybody for saying all the right stuff there. Canelo Alvarez made out like a bandit. $25 million, according to Sportico, and we have that on InTheFight.net. Billy Joe Saunders, he's going to make out okay, too. They think around $5 million. That's one hell of a payday for those guys.
That's an excellent payday. And look, I mean, I was surprised at the cards when they released them that Canelo was up comfortably on all 3 rounds. You know, prior to that round, Saunders, to me, looked as if he was starting to gain some momentum. You know, he was landing some decent shots. He was starting to establish the jab. And he, you know, I think in general, prior to that punch, which, by the way, didn't knock him down, never got knocked down. Frankly, never even stumbled. It hurt him, and then he stayed away. But I think he acquitted himself fairly nicely against, you know, at least one of the pound-for-pound kings in the sport, and definitely the most popular boxer in all of sports. It was very cool. Once Canelo did land that punch, the way he was able to get the crowd into it. I mean, those were 72,000 Canelo fans. There was no one there other than Tyson Fury rooting for Billy Joe Saunders. So
right, but we talked about this at length in earlier programs. Ricky Hatton is the guy that always comes to mind with me. Yeah. Is when you get the fans that are really passionate from other countries, Mexico obviously being one of them. You get that it's just a cool environment. It's just so different. Yeah. It's not obnoxious like USA chant. This is pride, and it was cool to see.
Yeah, and look, and as you alluded to, Mexico loves the sport of boxing. The UFC and MMA have tried desperately to tap into that market and create their own Mexican stars. Have been somewhat successful in doing so, but it's just not the same. And, you know, Mexican fighters are just known for their warrior spirit. You had Julio Cesar Chavez, you had Oscar De La Hoya, you know, Oscar is Puerto Rican. No, wait a second. I think I'm screwing that up. Never. So Julio Cesar Chavez. And now, you know, Canelo Alvarez, and, you know, he is literally just revered in his country. You know, so it's great to see. And obviously, from a geographic standpoint, Texas being so close to Mexico, it's a perfect setting for a Canelo Alvarez fight.
What is next in your mind that you'd want to see with Canelo Alvarez? I know there's a fight rumored to be coming up. That should be, I guess, confirmed in the next couple of days. We might be able to talk about it on Thursday. But what is your thought? What is next for Canelo Alvarez? He has that one loss on the ledger. Is that something that after Mayweather gets done, you know, jerking around with the Paul brothers, they can go back and have that fight again, or no? Nah,
that Mayweather would never take that fight because Mayweather knows now Canelo is now in his prime. So Mayweather is way past his prime. There's no way Mayweather was very smart in taking the fight when he did at such an early stage of Canelo's career. I would like to look. To me, unfortunately, I don't know if there is a true super fight because there are really no. Look, there are other names that Canelo will fight, and I'm sure, you know, if we had the hired gun on, he'd rattle them out. But, you know, to me, I think he should completely unify all the belts. There's still one more belt for him to capture. He has, in beating Billy Joe Saunders, he now has the WBO, but he has one more belt to go to capture all the super middleweight belts. I know there's talk of a trilogy fight with Gennady Golovkin. Frankly, I think again, it's timing when you talk about the great ones. And even Canelo and Gennady Golovkin, Canelo got to Golovkin just as Golovkin's prime ended, right? So now Golovkin is really past his prime. Canelo would really beat him up. So it'll be interesting. I think, you know, just for him, it's stay busy, stay active, make a lot of money, win a lot of fights. And at some point, because like he's not taking a ton of damage, so I wouldn't say that there's any health concerns. And at some point, another fight, there's always going to be another contender who comes up through the rankings, and let those guys develop. And at some point, he'll have another super fight.
The other fight out there would be Caleb Plant, who is the IBF holder, 21-0, 12 KOs. That is on paper, I guess, the next fight.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens there. Speaking of fights, and I already mentioned the man, and this is going to be ongoing on every one of our goddamn programs here until these guys just go the hell away. Hey, did you buy the? Did you get the hat? Did you go online and buy the merch from Jake Paul? Those who aren't in the know, you can go to inthefight.net and see this, and everywhere on social media. Oh man, Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather were having their first press conference in Miami, and who shows up? Obviously, Jake Paul's going to be there. It's his brother. But this jackass rips Floyd Mayweather's hat off his head, causes a ruckus. There was a Donnybrook. Punches were thrown. What is the end game here? Will these, pardon my French, will these motherfuckers just go away?
Someone has to knock them both out. That's when they will go away.
Well, look, I think if Floyd Mayweather is going to, you just said he's past his prime. Yeah, but still, if he, a well past the prime Floyd Mayweather really wants to box with these guys, it's not going to end well for them. Can this just happen already, and we can just move on?
Yeah, look, it probably won't end well. And frankly, so Logan Paul is the more... if you had to evaluate Logan and Jake Paul physically, Logan Paul is probably the more impressive physical specimen, but he's really not the moneymaker. He doesn't draw the same heat as his younger brother, Jake. By the way, so I look, you know that I detest the Paul brothers, and I detest this whole thing. But when he was like, I got your, you know what it reminded me of? It was like Austin Powers too, when Dr. Evil took the hood from the KKK guy. He's like, I got your hood. I thought that's what he literally stole it from. But look, and here's the problem too is, look, Floyd Mayweather is a wrestling fan. Floyd Mayweather loves, more than anything else, making money. Was this all a work?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really look at it, and it was at that point, once it occurred, I was like, you know what? Good for them. Everybody's working here.
It was not covered like a work. It was covered like a shoot.
Well, it was absolutely covered like a shoot. But you said it. You got guys that are smart enough businessmen to say, let's make this seem real. Could it be? Could it just happen? Sure. But this is the classic setup for the next one.
Yeah, it's...
They're working us.
Well, look.
It's like, I finally got confirmation after watching the A&E thing with Jerry the King Lawler, the WWE Treasure thing. Now, obviously, I always knew that deep down in my heart, Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman was a work. But they did such a good job of really covering it up. You weren't sure. Lawler admitted to it. That's what this is. This is a work.
They said it was a work back when they did the movie Man on the Moon 20 years ago, buddy.
I don't think I've ever watched that movie.
Oh, okay. Well, it was out 20 years ago.
All right. Well, there we go.
Look, the problem is this is going to it'll draw big. Also it's Showtime, so Showtime won't fake numbers like Triller did. But also because Floyd's there, you're going to have to pay $60, $70 to watch this. Enough people are going to shell out money to do so. And look, now it's to the point where even if you're against it, part of you wants to watch it just so you could watch these Paul brothers get knocked out. So, and look, all it takes really, if you view the Pauls as one entity, all right, so Logan's going to get this fight. He'll get knocked out. Then Jake will, start to continue to selectively choose his opponents. But at some point when he gets too far up the ladder, he's going to find someone that has his skill level or higher and get knocked out. So they're going to continue to make money until both of them get knocked out. It's just the way it's going to work, and we have to live with it.
Speaking of making money and getting knocked out, let's move on to UFC Vegas 26. And we're going to run down the whole card here and kind of talk about it was real snake bitten. It was a real disaster of a card from the standpoint of fights and things happening. But Let's talk about it. Cowboy, Donald Cerrone, are we done here? I mean, look, I was never the hugest Cowboy Cerrone fan, and I was actually going back. I'm like, I forgot about he was on Tap Out, the show, which was a great show.
That's
but
how he was introduced to the public.
Right, yeah. He's been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Boy, he's 0 for his last 6. I mean, he's a shell of himself. Is it time to just ride off into the sunset, for lack of better terms?
Yeah, so I was talking about this last week in the sense of the one thing I had hoped would not occur is exactly what occurred, which is that he got knocked out. To me, there's enough of a money grab where you could do this is Cowboy's last fight. You make it the featured bout on a UFC pay-per-view. That'll add that really solidifies a really good card, makes it a big hoopla thing. I think he's earned the right to go out on his shield and go out in the sense of in front of a crowd for in a pay-per-view card as opposed to the UFC Apex. So I would just book him, a few months from now, one of the pay-per-views, and selectively find an opponent that's a grapple-heavy opponent who's not going to knock him out, who won't hurt him. But yeah, he's done. So he's either 0-5 or 0-6 in his last 5 or 6 fights. I know 4 of them have been KOs. He's just not the same. And look, even when he was in his peak, he was never in wars, so to speak, where it was back and forth nailing shots. He doesn't have the best chin in the world. So, the guy has, a family. Look, just, I think he's going to have other means of generating income. I know that, he's a competitor, but it's time to walk away. There is no avenue for you to win a belt. Just walk away, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's and literally walk away. The organization will find a home for him. This isn't go to Bellator or go to PFL or go to ONE FC, Ryzen, wherever else is out there, and continue to get your head kicked in.
Well, no, look. So no offense to Alex Morano, but he's a guy who's been in the organization for a while, has like 7 fights in the UFC. You're now having lesser competition knock him out easily within 1 round. So if Cowboy were to leave the UFC and go to an organization where he thinks he would fight lesser competition, it still doesn't matter. He's still going to get knocked out. His chin's gone.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. Just, stop. You have your BMF ranch. You can be a coach. You have, again, he could start endorsing all these, crazy products. He can generate an income. Just,
go do your thing. He has a family. He has a family. Go enjoy your family.
Yeah, and he's also someone who doesn't come across as someone who needs millions of dollars to have a great lifestyle. I mean, he's sort of simplistic in that way. So go live the cowboy lifestyle. Go, I don't know what they do, but go.
They wrangle up horses or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
Let's get to the card itself. Phil Hawes defeats Philadelphia's Kyle Dykas by decision. What do you think here?
Yeah.
30 seconds.
So I was really, I was very excited about this fight. I thought Dykas was going to win simply because I had not seen Phil Hawes, have be able to maintain a full gas tank even for 3 rounds, and he was able to do so. He was able to withstand the grappling pressure of Dykas, and he has really good stand up. And I think Kyle is still going to be able to one day become a ranked middleweight, but Phil Hawes is definitely a guy who maybe one day might even be a title challenger. He just has that kind of skill.
In the catch weight, 160.5, Gregory Gillespie defeated Carlos Diego Ferreira in TKO punches in round number 2. 30 seconds.
So this was unbelievably impressive. So Gregory Gillespie coming back after like a 19-month layoff. This was literally a guy imposing his will and wearing down someone from a cardio perspective. And ultimately, when Gregory Gillespie won, he got up and said, "That's all heart, motherfucker." And he was right. He literally he broke Ferreira's spirit. And obviously, it was also pretty disgraceful that Ferreira showed up missing weight by 4.5 pounds.
Let's talk about the weight issue, because this is the UFC is having this problem again. I mean, I don't know that it's ever really going away, but this is now, you have this fight that has to be fought at a catch weight. What fight was canceled?
There was several fights canceled. One was
due to the issue at the weigh-in.
Yeah, Ryan Benoit had showed up, and he was literally shaking because it was a bad weight cut. I guess he tried to cut too much and ended up going to the hospital. So his fight was canceled. But then, interestingly, so the next fight on the card, which was Neal Magni versus Jeff Neal, very competitive welterweight fight. Neal Magni won via unanimous decision. Jeff Neal came out and made a statement saying that, I believe it was a week and a half ago, I guess he got some kind of stomach bug, and perhaps I had passed it on to him because I had a stomach bug myself. But nevertheless, he had to rehydrate and completely bulked up. And so going into fight week, he was 37 pounds overweight and dropped and cut all 37 pounds. So he had no cardio. And you saw that. About halfway through the fight, he was on empty. So, I mean, it's amazing what these guys go through, and you forget. It's even something as small as like a little bug in terms of timing. If you have to then devote yourself to putting on rehydrating, you're screwed. So, I mean, look, this is one of the biggest issues in terms of fighters always trying to fight in weight classes that stretch the limits of their weight. We see it all the time. But the strange one was for Hera because he's never missed weight. And then to show up 4.5 pounds overweight was really something. But Gregory Gillespie not only then gets his show purse, his win purse, and 30% of Ferreira's. So that's pretty good.
He does get 30% of Ferreira's. Amanda Rivas versus Angela Hill.
Well, canceled. Yeah, literally the day of, which sucks.
So canceled due to COVID.
Yeah.
So this is going to be around for a while. I don't think we're going to get away from this, hearing that this happens. But she was in the bubble at this point. So that's interesting.
So it means that she probably contracted it Monday or Tuesday or maybe even Wednesday, because the first few tests came back negative, and it was that last test that came back positive. This is the second straight fight for Angela Hill that was called either the day before or the day of. And I think with reading into the tea leaves, I think Amanda Ribas has some symptoms, because the last time it happened with Angela Hill and whomever she was fighting, they simply just did it was Ashley Yoder, I think. That's what, because it was someone in Ashley Yoder's camp. So they quickly just rescheduled it for like 2 weeks later. Now with Amanda Ribas, they're like, Angela Hill's like, I need someone to fight. Anyone want to fight in like 2 weeks? Because Amanda Ribas is going to need some time to get over COVID. Which sucks, is I was super excited for that match. Love watching both of those ladies fight.
In the heavyweight division, Marcos Rogerio de Lima defeated Maurice Green decision 30-26, 30-26, and 30-27 on the cards.
This fight sucked. Maurice Green did absolutely nothing on the bottom. We can talk about another fight. We shouldn't even waste time.
All right, so let's move to the main event. Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson, Karate Hottie. Not so hot on Saturday night.
Actually, she was still hot, but yes.
She was still hot, but she did not fight so well. Lost the decision unanimously. And honestly, it wasn't even that close.
There were moments where it was close. And honestly, I think that one thing that Michelle Waterson needs to understand, she actually has a grappling advantage with some of these ladies. In the fourth round, she took down Michelle Waterson. And if there was such a thing as a 6-minute round, like in the old days or something, I think she would have been able to finish Marina Rodriguez. So, I think that she might want to reevaluate her strategy a little bit. I think she acquitted herself decently. She hurt Rodriguez in the fifth round, both to the stomach or the torso, as well as she messed up Rodriguez's jaw. But Rodriguez is a very good stand-up fighter. I'd love to see her against some of the more accomplished stand-up fighters like a Ioane and Jacek, because Joanna is not going to be fighting for the belt because with Rose Namajunas winning, there's no way they're going to have her. She already lost twice to Rose, so she's not going to be fighting for the belt. I think that'd be a really interesting fight. But Rodriguez looked really good. Credit to both ladies stepping up on short notice. Glad they did the fight at 125 as opposed to 115, so they didn't kill themselves in the weight with the weight cut, so they were able to perform better.
Working ourselves backwards, Friday night on Showtime, Bellator 258. Bellator put on a pretty solid card coming out of Mohegan Sun. I guess the big news here is we'll start with Sergio Pettis. And the new, he wins the Bellator bantamweight title. He defeats Adam Archuleta.
You mean Juan Archuleta?
Adam. Rams.
Yes, Rams. The good old safety. I think he's a Fox News broadcaster as well. Isn't he? For the NFL.
Yeah, he's very overrated.
Yeah. Anyways, credit.
Number one. Sergio Pettis with the victory.
Yeah, credit to Sergio. I thought that Archuleta, I would have picked Archuleta to win. Sergio really delivered the best performance of his career. Had really good counter striking, particularly with his hands, and also was able to implement some good grappling, which he really looked like he improved. He finally looks as if he has grown into the bantamweight division. When he first started, he sort of just looked like a blown up flyweight. But to his credit, he really did outclass Archuleta. Archuleta, who trains. It was interesting, so Archuleta trains with TJ Dillashaw, who was supposed to be in the main event on Saturday night. And the reason he was not was because he sustained a cut. Now, I saw Dillashaw. I didn't see the cut that supposedly required the postponement of the fight. He looked fine because the picture he showed, like, hey, I got the cut. It was on the eyebrow. And when you looked at it, when you saw him in the Bellator cage in Archuleta's corner, I didn't see that same cut. But I'm not doubting him. I mean, I think Dillashaw's a little shady, but I'm not doubting he sustained the cut. But just it was something, to mention.
Elsewhere on the card, we had the return of Anthony Rumble Johnson. Yeah. And as it was going on, you were saying to me via text message, not so good. It turned out a little bit okay. And even Anthony Rumble Johnson was not very happy with his performance.
Yeah, he looked a little rusty. And, I think one of the things that you see with guys who, are out of the game for a while is an inability to engage. And you saw that in the first round. He just didn't have the timing or rhythm. And then, so Augusto actually broke his right hand on Anthony Johnson's head in the first round. And then actually managed to drop Anthony Johnson with a left towards the end of it. Anthony Johnson was able to recover. Then in the second round, he found a home for the right hand. Augusto won night-night. So all things sort of returned to normal, as I indicated to you via text message. But yeah, if he's going to fight that way against Vadim Nemkov, it's going to be a rough night for him. So he definitely needs to step it up.
Elsewhere on the main card, we have, and I have called, this is my name for this guy. So Peter Cooley defeats Pitbull number one.
He's
the older.
Yeah, that's right. He is the older one, so he should be Pitbull. I call him the larger Pitbull. Okay. But either way, yes. He defeated him via cuts. So Pitbull took him down, and so he was able to land some really good elbows off the back. One of them just opened him up, and he was leaking all over the place. Honestly, though, I don't know why the fight was stopped. The cut was way up into I wouldn't say the back of the head, but it was an area where it wasn't going over the eyes. Now, it was leaking. It was Edwin Dewey's Ultimate Fighter 4 level of leakage. That
was a good one. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that reference for when I thought about it. I was like, wow, I remember that one. Or the only other one I remember was Who fought Eve Edwards at UFC 62?
I don't remember. I was going to go MJF on AEW's Blood and Guts.
Yeah, that's a very good recent one though. So I don't quite know why it was stopped, but nevertheless it was stopped, and because it was stopped due to a cut sustained from a strike, Pitbull loses and could set up a potential rematch. Or Peter Queally is actually a training partner of one Conor McGregor, so he then called out the Pitbull number 2, the champ. So that's the problem with the nicknames, because technically Pitbull number 2 is the more accomplished of the Pitbulls.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, and then there's a whole element of people who are pro wrestling fans who think that we're talking about the Pitbulls, the tag team, but we're not, so it's okay.
You're going to have an availability issue there.
Yes, that is true. Last fight on the main card, Mike at catchweight 175, another doctor stoppage. Michael Page defeats Derek Anderson.
So Michael Venom Page, if you've never seen him, has a very interesting karate-centric and taekwondo-centric style, and fights from a sideways position. Was able to catch his opponent with a nasty kick and completely rearranged Derek Anderson's face. Just completely smashed his nose in. And it was like Anderson wanted to fight when he gets back to the corner. And even before the doctor came in, his corner's like, no, you're done. Like, it literally, if you see before that ties the Rich Franklin Anderson Silva fights. And what's another really bad one? There was a recent bad one. Vicente Luque and what's his name? The crazy guy from Orlando. Wow, this is gonna bother
Greg
me.
Rubin.
No, Greg. Well, shout out to Greg Rubin. He's not the crazy guy.
Our official referee, Greg Rubin.
Yes, who we'll have on the show again very soon. But yes, this was one of the worst nose breaks I've seen. It was nasty. I would, for those of you that are able to stomach those things, I would encourage you to check out any images of that. But the fight was right to be stopped.
This card, similar to UFC, went through a lot of chaos and cancellations and missed weights. COVID really wrecked this card, which for the most part, it seems like Bellator was kind of able to keep somewhat under control. I mean, I know they're running the shows up in Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
Are they doing a bubble, a true bubble, like bringing guys in a week and a half, week early?
Yeah, they're doing a legit. They're doing a legit bubble. The reason I know that is because the Morning Combat guys, who are affiliated with Showtime and CBS Sports, had to actually quarantine as well. So because they were doing podcasts from on site, so they had to themselves do that. But it seems like they've had better success. And then on top of that, which we talked about in the several previous shows, Yoel Romero unfortunately was not cleared to fight, so that he was out of the Anthony Johnson fight, which really, to me, that was such a bummer. I am such a huge Yoel Romero fan, and was really excited to see him at 205. So hopefully he's able to get us to get cleared and get, because supposedly it has to do with his eye. It's nothing COVID related.
No, it's an eye. Yeah, it is an eye issue according to all the reports. Let's get to the undercard a little bit. Anything in there that you saw that stuck out to you?
Well, yeah. So I do like the fact that the undercard, they show it on YouTube. There's some decent fights there. I thought there was a really good arm triangle choke. I think a cool name too. Patchy Mix defeated Albert Morales, which I think is I like that. It's just a good name, and Lorenz Larkin, who is he was a former Strikeforce and UFC competitor, defeated Rafael Carvalho via split decision. Lorenz Larkin is, I wouldn't say he's sort of on the tail end of his career. He just seems to have lost that edge. I mean, he was really, at some point, I thought he was almost a favorite to win the UFC welterweight belt, then quickly went to Bellator. And since he's come to Bellator, he is not, really just, he never hit land and sort of take it in stride. I hope he's able to find his game again.
Let us move on to PFL 3. This goes back to Thursday night after our show on Sportinarium aired live every Thursday, 5 p.m. East, 10 p.m. in the UK. So obviously it wasn't part of our show there. But chaos ensues here. I mean, look, I like the PFL, what they're doing. I like the kind of setup. It's a little different. Very reminiscent of IFL way back when IFL brought the ring in and they did the whole team thing. Fabricio Werdum makes his debut. He hasn't fought anywhere other than the UFC in 12 years, 11 years, and he loses. Or does he?
Exactly, yeah. So Fabricio, who is known as, and probably being the greatest heavyweight jiu-jitsu practitioner in the history of MMA, had Renan Ferreira in a triangle choke, and it appeared via replays that with Ferreira's right hand that he actually tapped, and then in his left hand he continued. He was close enough, and he has a really long reach, so he was able to continue to punch Werdum in the face as he was getting choked out. Obviously, he never passed out from the choke. The ref missed the tap, and as Ferreira is continuing to punch, at some point he hurts Werdum. Werdum eases up on the choke, and then Ferreira knocks him out. So it's controversy definitely going down at the shore.
Like Eric Bischoff said, though, controversy creates cash. And I know that PFL has a different setup on the way they do things, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is a natural rematch here. If they choose to go that route, I guess they could do it in the final. To do it.
Well, it depends. Well, so since subsequent to the fight, Werdum and his camp have filed an appeal with the New Jersey State Athletic Commission. As of the time of this recording, there has not yet been a ruling regarding that. So the thing is, this is also really important. In a normal sense, it would just be, okay, what happens with the fight. But in PFL, with their points in the regular season and playoffs, right now, Ferreira has 6 points because it was a stoppage within the 3 rounds. This could be completely overturned and become 6 points to Werdum, because technically he submitted him within the first round. So, what do you do? Unless you quickly have a rematch, but Werdum then did get knocked out. He got stopped due to punches, so he's medically suspended. You're going to make the two of them fight an extra fight during a regular season? There's definitely an issue there. I don't know what they're going to do. It's a quandary.
It is a quandary. Let's talk about the ladies. Kayla Harrison, impressive. Oh. Impressive. I mean, I guess impressive is an understatement.
Oh, my God. So, Kayla Harrison, the former USA gold medalist in judo, completely destroyed Mariana Moraes via TKO, punches from the mount, 1 minute and 23 seconds into round 1. It was efficient and brutal. She looked as good as Ronda Rousey looked in the beginning of her career, but even more physically imposing. And then in the interview, they were asking her about, the rest of the season, the rest of the competitors. She's like, it's a coronation. I'm going to win. And I got to tell you, if there is ever someone who I think could beat Amanda Nunes, she might be it. Now, the thing is, it would have to be at 145. Right now, Kayla Harrison's fighting at 155. She has fought at 145 in the past. It is difficult for her to get down there. And she's just a thicker lady, the way she's built. And it would be interesting, though, because she looked damn good.
Yeah, she did. And look, the MMA needs female fighters that are going to come in and they're going to do this thing. That's not a slight on any of the other female fighters, but they need to really build the ranks, so to speak. right? You need super competitive, for lack of a better term, killers that are going to come in and are going to sell tickets.
Yeah, because the problem is the 115-pound division, particularly in the UFC, is absolutely fantastic and runs. There are unranked fighters who are very good. It is incredibly deep. The higher you go up in weight, unfortunately, it just does not appear there's as many viable competitors and contenders. So, when you find someone like a Kayla Harrison, and in June we're going to have Clarissa Shields make her MMA debut. It's something that you really hope that they're able to sustain it, and then hopefully at some point you get all the top fighters in those weight classes to fight one another. Problem is that they're in different companies. You have, Amanda Nunes, in the UFC. Obviously, she beat Cyborg, but Cyborg's in Bellator. You have Kayla Harrison, Clarissa Shields, and PFL, so it makes it a little difficult.
Mohammad Uzman makes his PFL debut. He fights. He does not do as well, but I guess the key here is brother of Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, so Mohammad Usman is the older brother and larger brother of Kamaru Usman. He is, I believe he was like 6'2.5", 255 pounds. He is a large man. He played college football. I don't know where, but he doesn't have the wrestling background of his brother, which it does show. Very powerful guy. He's still very young in his career. Obviously this was a great opportunity for him to fight in the PFL for this regular season and in this tournament. But I think he's still a little green, frankly. I think, this is a guy, I think he only has like 4 or 5 fights professionally. So, and you can see he's just not yet quite ready to, establish himself the way his brother was. And plus, he's not able to lean on one martial art like wrestling the way his brother is because he doesn't have that background. But either way, it was a very entertaining fight, and he definitely has a champion spirit, and he's super competitive. He and his opponent were knocking each other around, and ultimately he ended up losing. But I think he's someone who I do see at some point being a ranked competitor in whatever division or whatever organization he ends up in, 10 fights from now.
That's going to wrap up the weigh-in. We have weighed in on pretty much everything that has occurred over the weekend. Do you have anything else to add? There's nothing I can think of.
I'm just really frustrated. Last night I went to a Dunkin' Donuts and I asked, do you have any donuts? Or I asked if they had a specific donut and they said no. Then I said, oh, do you have another type of donut? They said no. Then I said, look, do you have any donuts? And the guy said no. How come he didn't start with that?
Well, some people, it's Dunkin' Donuts. That's your first fault. Why are you going there?
It was late at night.
They have nothing of value at a Dunkin' Donuts. Their coffee sucks. Their bagels aren't good. I, on the other hand, had really good Mexican food. And I got to tell you, I can't tell you the name of the place. It's in Merchantville, New Jersey. And it's named after a chip.
Yeah.
So, if they want to pay to be a sponsor, hey, come on down. But we'll help you out. But really, really good honey Chihuahua wings.
Those are good wings there. I agree with you.
And then I stuck it in the oven for a little bit to really let it settle in.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Good call.
Very good.
Good call.
Very good. Coming up on InTheFight.net, we're going to have what? Are you 3 up, 3 down from UFC to UFC Vegas 26? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, we will. I will have that up, and then this Thursday, we're definitely going to get into. We need to have a discussion about the names of these events.
We can have a discussion on Thursday about the names of the events. More importantly, UFC 262, Houston, Texas, packed house. We're going to preview that fight card on Sportinarium Radio, Sportinarium.com. Give those guys a follow at Sportinarium on the Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back then. In the meantime, InTheFight.net. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at In The Fight Show. This has been the weigh-in. Our thoughts for everything that occurred this weekend in combat sports. We'll see you Thursday.